Today, we're diving into the essential world of epidemiology. We'll break down the basic measurements, explore the different types, and delve into the critical measures of morbidity and mortality. Whether you're a health enthusiast or a budding biostatistician, this video will equip you with the foundational knowledge to understand and interpret vital health data. Let's get started. Wait, start by subscribing to Public Health Room, where you find all health issues in one room. Epidemiology involves measurement or quantification of morbidity or sickness and mortality or death and health-related conditions. It is mainly a quantitative discipline, which starts its study of human disease by quantifying its magnitude. How big is it? Measurement is a process of providing numbers to a health-related event, state, or phenomenon. Measures of disease frequency. Frequency is the rate of occurrence or the number of times that a particular disease or health-related condition occurs. Types of measurement. Measurement includes simple counts, ratios, proportion, rate. Measures of disease occurrence or morbidity. It includes prevalence, point and period prevalence. Incidence includes cumulative and incidence density. Attack rate includes attack rate and secondary attack rate. Simple count, the number of occurrences of a single disease or health-related event. It is simple counting of cases of a disease. Common descriptive measure of disease frequency. First step in calculating rates. Example: number of children affected by malaria. Family planning users. How many people are affected by HIV in country X? Number of people who have knowledge on HIV, sexually transmitted disease. Number of children affected by malnutrition. Ratio. A ratio is the relative size of two quantities. It quantifies the magnitude of occurrence of something in relation to another, one character divided by another. No specific relationship is necessary between the numerator and denominator, or numerator not necessarily included in the denominator. Examples: beds per doctor ratio, number of students per facilitator, health facility per catchment population. Proportion. Proportion is a comparison of a part to the whole. It quantifies occurrence of disease or health-related condition in relation to the population in which these occurrences take place. That numerator must be included in the denominator. Its result ranges between 0 and 1 or 0 to 100%. The result can be expressed as decimal, fraction, or a percentage. Example: proportion of TB cases among the total population. Proportion of under 5 children with diarrhea among total under 5 children. Rate measures occurrence of an event in a population over time. Rate is calculated as number of cases or events occurring during given time period over population at risk during given time period times 10 raised to n. Most clearly express the probability of risk of acquiring disease in a defined population over a specific period of time. Death from HIV in country X was 1050 and the population was 70 million in 2013. Calculate the mortality rate for country X. Having the earlier formula, we can calculate the mortality rate. Mortality rate equals 1,050 over 70 million, which gives us 1.5 per 100,000 people per year. Unlike simple count, ratio, proportion, and rate allow comparisons to be made about various health outcomes between populations of different sizes. All rates are proportions. All rates are ratios too. All proportions are ratios. But all proportions are not rates. All ratios are not proportions. Measures of disease occurrence or morbidity. They are used to quantify the occurrence of disease. Rates are used to measure disease or morbidity occurrence. These measures of disease or morbidity occurrence can be categorized into 1. Prevalence rate. 2. Incidence rates. 3. Attack rates. Prevalence and incidence rate. Prevalence rate measures a proportion of disease, both old and new cases, in a definite population. It includes point prevalence and period prevalence. Incidence rate assesses frequency of disease onset or new cases, 2 forms. Cumulative incidence. Incidence density or rate. Prevalence rate measures the proportion of population that have been affected by certain disease or health-related condition at a given point in time or during a specified period of time in a defined population. Measures health status of the population. It can be expressed as percentage. Types of prevalence rate. Point prevalence rate. It is the proportion of the population affected by disease at a given point in time. It may not be useful for assessment of diseases with a short generation period or shorter period of communicability. Calculated by the formula. Number of cases of a disease at a point in time over mid-year population at that point in time. For example, HIV/AIDS in X city in 2015. With population 210,000 and cases 3,200. What is point prevalence? It can be calculated as point prevalence is equal to 3,200 over 210,000, which is 1.5%, or 1,500 per 1,000 population. Period prevalence measures the proportion of a population that is affected by a given disease over a longer period of time. If we want to know how much disease is present over a longer period of time, period prevalence would be preferred. Calculated by the formula. Number of cases of a disease within a range of time over mid-year population at the specified time. Mid-year population is equal to population at start over 2 plus population at end over 2. Prevalence of disease and health-related conditions is increased by out-migration of healthy people, in-migration of susceptible people, improved diagnostic facilities, longer duration of disease, and it is decreased by high case fatality, in-migration of healthy people, out-migration of cases, and susceptible people, improved cure rate of cases. Incidence rate measures the number of new cases of disease out of a defined population at risk within a specified period of time. Population at risk are individuals in a population who are free of the condition or disease, but susceptible to it. It will tell us the probability that healthy people will develop a disease during the specified time. Measures risk, calculated by the formula number of new cases over a specified period of time over population at risk for the condition during the same time period multiplied by 1,000. Incidence rate is difficult to calculate because disease may not be easily recognizable, or it may occur repeatedly, or a person may suffer from several disease processes at one time. There are two forms of incidence: cumulative incidence and incidence rate or incidence density. Cumulative incidence. It assumes that the entire population is at risk and is followed up for specified time interval for the development of outcome under investigation. It provides an estimate of the probability or risk that an individual will develop a disease during a specified period of time. Calculated by the formula. Number of new cases of disease during a given period of time over total population at risk. The requirements to calculate incidence rate includes knowledge of health status of the population, time of onset, specification of denominator, specification of numerator, and period of observation. When the person being followed develops the outcome of interest, she or he is considered as a new case. Hence, temporal relationships do exist between the cause and the outcome of interest, unlike prevalence. Incidence rate or density. Unlike cumulative incidence, incidence density considers the total period of observation for each study subject. Hence, the denominator will be the sum of person time observed. An incidence density measure is a speed, usually expressed as the number of cases per 1,000 or 100,000 units of follow-up time. Calculated by the formula. Incidence density is equal to the number of new cases of disease during a given follow-up time over person years observed or person time. What is person time? It is the sum of the length of time period passed free of illness or at risk by each individual member of study. It accounts for the amount of exposure time of study participants. It is a good measure in a dynamic or open cohort. A cohort of people leaving and entering a study at different times of period. Uses of incidence and prevalence rates. Incidence rate. Incidence rate focuses on new cases over a period of time. Useful for studies of disease etiology. Provide an estimate of risk of developing disease. Prevalence rate. Focuses on all cases over a period of time. Useful for determining the magnitude of diseases and other health problems. Hence, it is important for planning and evaluation of the healthcare system and public health interventions. It is also used for monitoring and control of epidemic disease. Attack rate. An attack rate is a variant of an incidence rate applied to a narrowly defined population observed for a limited time, such as during an epidemic. The attack rate is usually expressed as a percent. Attack rate is calculated by Number of new cases of a specified disease during an epidemic period of time over population at risk during the same time interval. Secondary attack rate. It is calculated by the formula. Number of new cases of a specified disease among contacts of known cases over size of contact population at risk. Measures of mortality rate. Mortality is the fundamental factor in the dynamics of population growth and causes of death. A mortality rate is a measure of the frequency of occurrence of death in a defined population during a specified interval. For a defined population, over a specified period of time. It is calculated by the formula. Death occurring during the given time period over size of the population among which death occur. Types of mortality rates. Types of mortality rates include crude mortality rate or crude death rate, age-specific mortality rate, age-specific mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, cause-specific mortality rate, proportionate mortality rate,